Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unlocking the master blueprint of project management. If you've ever stared down a massive, chaotic project and felt completely, utterly overwhelmed by where to even begin, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to introduce you to the ultimate tool for organizing those chaotic, complex undertakings, breaking them down from intimidating mountains into perfectly manageable, actionable steps. So, why do so many massive tasks end up completely off the rails before they even truly begin? I mean, we've all seen it happen, right? Projects that sound absolutely great in the kickoff meeting, but a few months later, they're way over budget, past the deadline, and nobody seems to know who is actually responsible for what. Okay, let's dive into this. When we look at the data, the common culprits for project failure become incredibly clear. First up, we have scope creep. That insidious process where just one more feature slowly bloats the budget and timeline completely beyond recognition. Then, there's poor estimation. This is where a 2-week task mysteriously takes 3 months, mostly because nobody fully understood what the task actually entailed in the first place. Add in unclear deliverables, where no one actually knows what the final product should look like, and massive communication gaps across teams. And yeah, these are the specific pitfalls that absolutely ruin our best laid plans. Here is our quick roadmap for today's explainer. First, an intro to the WBS, then the 100% rule. After that, the anatomy of a WBS. Then we'll look at 3 different methodologies, and finally some real-world applications. Section 1. Introducing the WBS. Let's meet the hero of our story, the specific tool that project managers rely on to cure scope creep, poor estimation, and confusion. As the famous saying goes, a work breakdown structure is one of the first tools that makes your project manageable and measurable. I really want to emphasize those 2 words, manageable and measurable. The core purpose here isn't just to make some pretty corporate chart. It's to take what feels totally impossible and make it feel entirely, quantifiably manageable. So, formally defined, a work breakdown structure, or WBS, is a hierarchical decomposition of a project into smaller, manageable components called work packages. In plain English, it means you're taking a massive project and chopping it down top to bottom into bite-sized, distinct sections. You just keep breaking the work down until you reach a level where you can confidently estimate the time and cost. Doing this makes the whole thing significantly easier to plan, to assign to specific people, to track, and ultimately to complete. It guarantees total project completeness and crystal clear responsibilities. It's a real game changer. Section 2, the 100% rule. So the crucial point here is that this is the absolute, unbreakable golden law that holds this entire framework together. It's known as the 100% rule, and it states that every single deliverable, task, and activity needed to complete the project's objectives must appear somewhere in your WBS. The sum of the work at the lower levels must mathematically equal exactly 100% of the work represented by the level above it. By extension, this also means that absolutely no work outside the structure is part of the project. Furthermore, there should be 0 overlap between components. Each piece belongs to exactly one parent category. Everything is accounted for, and there is 0 double counting of effort, which is awesome because it means no 2 teams are accidentally burning budget doing the exact same job. Okay, let's put this into practice to see just how easy it is to accidentally violate this rule. Imagine you're managing a software project called Campus Connect, which is a university portal. In the kickoff meeting, the client tells you, the portal should include a web dashboard, a mobile app, and a back-end system for storing student data. After launch, we also need user training and documentation. Read that quote carefully, especially those specific deliverables. How would you break this down? Well, if you draft a breakdown and simply list UI design, front-end development, back-end, mobile app, and testing, actually, scratch that. You've likely just violated the 100% rule in 2 major, really dangerous ways. First, look at the incomplete scope. The client explicitly asked for user training, but if it's missing from your list, it won't get budgeted or assigned. That guarantees a massive crisis at launch. Second, look at overlap. If you have front-end development and mobile app development sitting right next to each other, you might be double counting user interface work. Or maybe your API development and back-end development categories are overlapping. This perfectly highlights how easily we can forget deliverables or accidentally assign the exact same task to 2 different teams. Section 3, Anatomy of a WBS. So, how do we actually draw this skeletal framework out in real life? And this brilliantly illustrates the visual tree mapping of a project. Starting way up at the top, we have the massive, overarching project that branches down into tasks, then subtasks, all the way down to the bottom nodes, which are our work packages. This structure provides a clear mathematical roadmap. The cost and the hours of those bottom nodes literally roll up to give you the exact budget and timeline for the nodes above them. It helps estimate costs with crazy precision and makes identifying risks so much easier. Let's walk through those distinct levels together. Level 1 is always your overall project, for instance, website development. Level 2 breaks that into major deliverables or phases, like front-end or testing. Level 3 dives into sub-deliverables, like UI design. And finally, Level 4 gives us the actual work packages, such as login page design. Remember, every single element here must represent a measurable deliverable, not just some vague activity. You can measure the hours and cost required to finish a login page design, right? But you can't easily budget or schedule a vague instruction like do some coding. Section 4. 3 WBS methodologies. Because let's be real, not all projects are identical. A one-size-fits-all structure just won't work. So we're going to do a detailed breakdown of 3 specific ways to build your structure. The 3 methodologies we're looking at are deliverable-based, phase-based, and function-based. A deliverable-based structure organizes everything around what we physically produce. A phase-based structure maps the work around the sequential life cycle of the project over time. And a function-based structure organizes the work by the specific department or discipline that's responsible for it. Let's dive right into the granular real-world tables for each one of these. First up, the deliverable-based approach. Imagine an e-commerce website project. Here, our Level 2 elements are concrete products: user interface design, product catalog system, shopping cart, and payment gateway. When we look at the shopping cart at Level 2, we break it down into Level 3 work packages like cart functionality, order summary and coupons, and the checkout workflow. We're focusing entirely on tangible outputs here. So if your ultimate goal is handing over a concrete product to a client, this is absolutely the methodology you want to use. Let's move to and see how this builds a phase-based mobile app project. Here, we care a lot more about the sequence of events over time. Our Level 2 elements are chronological phases: initiation, design, development, implementation, and closure. Under initiation, we gather requirements and do feasibility studies. Notice we don't even touch coding until we hit the development phase. You use this approach when the sequential process over time matters more to your management style than the individual products themselves. Finally, we have the function-based approach, looking here at a product launch project. This organizes work by distinct organizational teams. You have the design department handling 3D CAD modeling, which is totally isolated from the engineering department doing component testing, which is separate again from the marketing department running digital ad campaigns. This ensures that distinct divisions in a large organization have incredibly clear lanes and nobody's stepping on anyone else's toes. Section 5, Real-World Applications. Let's prove that this roadmap tool isn't just for software engineering, but for absolutely any complex undertaking you can think of. To apply this anywhere, you really just need to follow these core tenets. You begin with your project charter. That's the formal document outlining your main objectives, budget, and authority. You break the main products down into subproducts. You set the structure to match how you will actually manage the project. But the most important rule here is balance. A work package should be big enough to assign to a team member, but small enough to track effectively. In project management, this is often called the 880 rule. Basically, a work package should typically take between 8 to 80 hours to complete. Any smaller, and you're just micromanaging. Any larger, and it's simply too hard to track accurately. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how beautifully this methodology adapts to a completely non-technical event, like planning a press conference. Yet it maps perfectly onto a deliverable-based structure. We have major deliverables like the venue, the speakers, marketing, and registration. Under venue, we simply break it down into deciding the venue, booking it, and arranging the catering. It literally brings absolute engineering precision to event planning. And it gets even more accessible. Here is a completed structure for a company holiday party. This time, it uses a phase-based structure: initiation, preparation, execution, and follow-up. Under preparation, we send invites, acquire food, and book the venue. Under execution, we arrive to set up, welcome the guests, and clean up. By using this tool, the party planners can track costs accurately, organize different volunteers, and ensure absolutely nothing, not even the post-party cleanup, is forgotten. It's foolproof. From millions of dollars in software development to a simple company holiday party, the mechanics of success are exactly the same. You take the overwhelming and you make it manageable and measurable. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Now that you have the master blueprint, how will you apply the work breakdown structure to take control of your next overwhelming task? Thanks so much for joining us on The Explainer, and we'll see you next time.